Councilwoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to extend my appreciation to everyone that's been involved in this process. Thank you to Mike, to Debbie, who's been recommended for a raise, I think, by Mr. Calvert, to Renee and Alex. I'd also like to thank Francesca from my staff who attended, I believe, all the meetings, the last of which I heard was about six hours. And also to Porter Dillard for participating in the presentation today, and to all the different chambers and groups that came to the table. This has been difficult. It's difficult to have these conversations. Folks feel uncomfortable about talking about these issues, but I appreciate everyone's willingness to do so, especially since, as has been articulated by a couple of the speakers today, we are overcoming a history of some failed efforts. So there is a bit of frustration in having this dialogue, because many of the folks feel that they've been at the table in the past on this very same issue. And so I appreciate the willingness to again come forward in faith and to a certain extent suspend your disbelief in what's happened in the past. And I'm asking that everyone continue to suspend that disbelief. Through the dialogue that's been held, I think it's been beneficial both ways, both for the city staff to have a better understanding of what some of the barriers are and the challenges from the perspective of business and community people, but also for the business folks and community members to understand some of the constraints under which the city operates. And so I hope that that has been beneficial for you. I am satisfied that we're off to a good start, but I want everyone to know that it is a start. This is a great starting point for us to be at. The challenge does continue, and I have to say that I fully expect for the Fair Contracting Coalition and all the chambers and the NAACP and business leaders to continue to hold the city accountable. You may feel like, well, we've come to the table, we've set up a great plan, now I should be able to go back to my business and continue, but unfortunately that's not the way it works. We will need folks to continue to provide feedback, to be at the table, and to hold us accountable. I can reiterate what the mayor said, in that I strongly believe that this council has the will to move forward. But we all know that we kind of have a changing cast of characters here. So that's why it's very important for the community and business leaders to continue to keep this issue at the forefront. And also for everyone to realize that there's not one magic bullet or magic solution, that we're kind of working on some parallel tracks. We have this beginning plan focuses quite a bit on outreach, which I believe is important, but also we will need the collaboration and involvement of many partners, not just from the city, in order to build many of the businesses, to help them with the access to capital, credit, and bonding. We'll need to outreach to, we'll need to include other institutions within the community in order to achieve those particular goals. I'm sure that some of the other council members might speak to this issue as well, but I understand the intense interest in moving forward on segmentation. However, we want to responsibly move forward based on data, and we'll go ahead and, admit that in the past we hadn't gathered the data, but now we are on a track of gathering the data, and so we need to have that data in order to be able to make the best decision on moving forward. And I just want the community members to know that we're not just stalling, that we actually are collecting the data. And Renee, actually on that point, would you just come forward for a moment and speak to that issue? I know we keep talking about a timeline of a year, but I think you had mentioned that you believe we may have some data maybe at midpoint in 2013. Will you talk about that a bit?
Correct, Councilwoman. And one, I want to thank the Fair Contracting Coalition. We have been meeting with them. And the beauty of these meetings is that it really affirms the hard work that we put in, the commitment you've made over the last few years. We've put in the entire infrastructure needed to capture the data. We've put in the resources needed to establish a mentor program and a bonding assistance program, and those are really critical steps for us. As you all might recall, this was a phased-in program, so we're really getting to the end of those phases where we're really starting to build capacity. But to your question specifically, Councilwoman, we are capturing all the data as it pertains to minority and women. As you may recall, we recently went race conscious with the ordinance back in May. That data is starting to be collected. Payment data lags behind actual award data, so we've just now started to track payments based on going race conscious. We feel that by May of next year, we'll have a good body of data to determine, are we ready to now segment? Have we eliminated disparity? There's a progression of the ordinance that's spelled out in the ordinance. It protects the ordinance legally, and we're ready to move on that front once the data indicates that, Councilman, but we have put in the infrastructure to gather that data.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, what timeline did you say?
We feel as though May, when we went race conscious, May of next year, we'll have enough data to make that determination.
Okay, thank you very much. And then also in response to one of the comments, I think by Mr. Calvert there at the end, I am definitely open to a dialogue on exploring options to strengthen minority representation on the EDF. I have gotten that feedback over the years from various members of the community. Renee, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, ma'am. As soon as that came up last week with the Fair Contractor Coalition, I actually called Mario and EDF that night. We are in discussion. I spoke to Byron last night as well about this issue. And the bottom line is we are going to work with the EDF right now to ensure that there's fair representation. There is an investor level requirement to be on that board, and the conversation I had with Mario is coming up with a solution through their executive committee to make sure that there's representation on that board. So given the green light yesterday, Councilman, we are going to actively work on that.
Okay, thank you. I guess in conclusion, I just again like to reiterate how much I appreciate everyone being involved in what's been a pretty detailed process with a number of meetings, and I'm going to be asking for your continued commitment to following the process, and just I guess say that I mean the whole purpose and vision, I think there was a vision statement given about everyone having the opportunity to fully participate, knowing that the city is a big business partner. We want everyone to feel that they have a fair shot. Of course, I am particularly interested in the outcomes related to the African American community because that area has I think been overlooked for quite a long time, but we want everyone to feel that they have a fair shot. But I guess just to reiterate what I had stated back in October as well, this is just one component, but we want to ensure that in relation to that brain drain that's been referenced several times, that we can stem the tide, specifically in relation to young African Americans, because that is something that I have noticed during the 15 years that I've lived here, that many of the folks that I know who have done well for themselves and have been able to educate their children are not necessarily choosing to return home to San Antonio because they don't feel that there will be opportunities for them as young African American professionals and or business owners, and that's not the message that we want to send. There's a lot of talent out there that we want to ensure and capture, and so I believe that this is part of that effort. There are many other ways that we can address that as well, but I am encouraged about the steps that we are taking today. Thank you, Mayor.